You are listening to the New American Media.
Live from the Milky Way Galaxy. Within the Milky Way Galaxy, you'll find the solar system. Dig around, you're going to find planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Unhappy Hour. I'm your host, Brian Engelman. This is the NewAmericanMedia.com. Yes, you're hearing some pretty cool drumming. Love that song. Thanks for joining us on this special episode. Why is it special? Why is it special? Because it's NBA season. That's why. That's what makes it special. NBA season makes it special. We always bring in Zak Baris to talk NBA stuff. And let's just say it for what it is. This was a huge win for the Spurs. They looked great doing it. I believe this was the third largest blowout in NBA Finals history, which has got to feel good if you're a Spurs fan, because, man, after Game 2, you're probably feeling, oh, boy, this could shift. Well, it has shifted back into the hands of San Antonio. So we're going to bring in NBA scout, lifelong Cleveland sports fan Zak Baris to talk a little bit about his thoughts after watching Game 3 and what we could expect for the rest of the series. Real quick, make sure you check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter at American_media_. Make sure that you search The New American Media on Facebook and like our page. And subscribe to youtube.com/The New American Media. Because we got to stay connected in between these radio shows, everybody. So without further ado, let me bring Zak into the program, and we can get the ball rolling. And, man, you've got to be feeling good if you're a Spurs fan at this point. Close game for a while, and then it just fell apart for the Heat.
Hello?
Hey, Zak, it's Brian. You're live on the Unhappy Hour. How you doing today, sir?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah, are you feeling good because you just watched a dominant performance by the Spurs, or are you feeling good because it was just a nice day today, Zak?
A little bit of both.
All right, well...
it was a fantastic performance. I mean, like I said, it's when we went over it the other night, it was Game 2 was like I expected. When I said I expected Miami to win that, pretty easily, and they came away with Game 2 with an easy win. And, Miami is now 3-23 in their last 26 games in San Antonio.
Ooh, 3-23?
Mm-hmm.
That is a phenomenal stat, because when you think of the Heat this year, you think of, oh, they went like a long time, weeks and weeks and weeks undefeated. You think these guys can't lose, but they're 3-23 in San Antonio. Wow. That is a stat of the day. I thought saying that was the third largest blowout in NBA Finals history was a great stat to lead with. 3 out of 23? That's huge, because the format of 2-3-2, I mean, the Heat could be done before they ever get back to Miami. Is that possible?
Well, it's possible. Do I think it'll happen? I mean, I think it's a serious possibility if San Antonio manages to play like this. I mean, you waste a night where you're actually getting, very good production out of Mike Miller. It's tough. I mean, I don't know. Tonight, I feel like I didn't even hear Dwayne Wade's name called all night.
I saw that one.
Chalmers for that instance, and barely Chris Bosh.
Yeah.
Their supporting cast and LeBron was horrible. He was horrendous, and they were only down 4 points in the first half. He was terrible for most of the third quarter and still at the end when he took over, but it was too little too late at that point. And, he put up the 9-point streak. But, I mean, the San Antonio executed to perfection in the second half. They did not play a good first half. They blew an 11-point lead. They turned the ball over a ton. They were giving up tons and tons of offensive rebounds. And you're like sitting there at one point, and as soon as Miami tied this game up, you're like, okay, Miami could win this game. If Miami wins tonight, they're going to win this series. Going up 2-1, with the possibility of taking one more, and then you're just like, and then San Antonio in those quick, with the Tony Parker fadeaway 3 and then the Gary Neal 3, on the, on the last play of the half, then you're just like, okay, San Antonio now back up by 4, or were they up by 6? I'm sorry, they were up by 6. Was it comfortable, or were they up 4 or 6 at halftime?
You don't recall.
I can't think. It was either a 4 or 6 point lead at halftime, and it was just, now it's starting to seem a little more comfortable. And they came out on fire in the second half, and it's like they couldn't miss. And, they had a perfect defensive game plan for LeBron and Dwayne Wade. They said, you know what, we're going to give you every open jump shot, take them. we're going to give you the cushion, at the 3-point line, come in, you're not going to be able to drive. So
it was
no luck
50.
getting
It was
through.
50-44 at the half. The Spurs.
Okay, so they had a 6-point lead.
Yeah.
And it was just, they had no chance because Miami wasn't able to penetrate the lane at all. San Antonio had a perfect defensive scheme drawn up by Popovich. I mean, that's why I say he's the best coach in the NBA, because it's stuff like this. They rebound from a blowout loss in Game 2 to just a blowout win in Game 3. It was one of the best turnarounds you're ever going to see.
Well, I mean, you got to figure. I mean, it's kind of strange that did happen with the monster performances that the Heat gave us with Shane Battier's 0 points, Rashard Lewis's 0 points, Mario Chalmers'
Rashard
0
Lewis played
points.
like 5 minutes.
I know, but Mario Chalmers 0 points and Udonis Haslem's 0 points. I mean, that's a lot of Easter eggs rolling around there.
Yeah, and how many points did Dwayne Wade put up?
Well, let's say this: he had 1 point better than Mike Miller's 15.
Well, I mean, okay, I'm looking at it now. Dwayne Wade went 7 of 15 shooting and 2 of 2 from the line. 16 points on 15 shots isn't incredibly efficient. And LeBron with 15 points on 21 shots and 0 free throw attempts. That's the most surprising thing there. 15 points on 21 shots is just an absolutely horrendous night offensively for LeBron.
But I thought he was working with Hakeem Olajuwon to get that post game going.
Well, his post game has been phenomenal all year, but he couldn't even get into the post tonight for the most part. That was the problem.
Well, is it a problem, or is that a kudos to the Spurs defense? What's going on here?
I would say Kawhi Leonard deserves the kudos for that one. I mean, it was not. Kawhi Leonard was absolutely fantastic. I don't even.
He looked great.
Leonard had. I'm just trying to look right now.
14.
Leonard had 4 steals though. He's just defensively. I mean, again, with 3 offensive rebounds, they were all clutch offensive rebounds, 12 rebounds overall. I mean, the kid is just, he's an absolute stud. Right now he's the second best player to come out of that draft just because of what he's done in the past. Yeah, he's been great during the regular season, but, out of the 2010 draft that supposedly had 0 talent in it, it was the 2011 draft that supposedly had 0 talent that landed the Cavaliers, Kyrie Irving, who's an all-star. Kawhi Leonard is, one of the best defensive stoppers in the league. You have Klay Thompson on Golden State, who's been great too. And, especially put up some great playoff performances. And now you have Kawhi Leonard, who's broken out. And even Tristan Thompson's been decent too.
Yeah.
And, and you have guys like, there's actually a sizable amount of talent in the 2011 NBA draft, if you look at it. It wasn't as bad as people made it out to be.
Let me ask you something. Talking about draft, and you brought up the Cavs. Danny Green, just his story. I mean, 27 points tonight. He led the scoring. What was Danny Green's problem in Cleveland, and why did
Danny
it click
Green
for him?
was a rookie in Cleveland playing on a 61-win team. Wasn't going to get any playing time to begin with. And Danny Green is one of those guys. He's a great system player. He is, and he fits perfectly in Popovich's system. I don't know if he would have ever fit well with the Cavs because he would have been looked on as a number 2 option. And at the time, especially, he just wouldn't have been looked upon, as the same he is now. Don't forget their offensive options in front of him are Tony Parker to set him up. He has a lot of experience. He's got Tim Duncan. He's got Ginobili around him. They have a lot of experience surrounding him with a lot of good players and a lot of sharp shooters. You have Matt Bonner, Gary Neal. You have a lot of talent around him.
And Gary Neal played a hell of a game tonight, too.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't need, and when I was talking about the 2010 draft, I meant to not leave out Kenneth Faried or Jimmy Butler. I just want to say that. Even Norris Cole is in there. And, Norris didn't play well tonight, but, he has been, he's been pretty good throughout the playoffs, too. But it just seems like the Miami Heat had an off night, and the thing is, I tweeted earlier tonight, I said Chris Bosh was the X factor of this series. Get him involved, he puts up 20-plus points, Miami's not going to lose. They never do. When Bosh shoots above 50%, they don't lose.
And by the way, that's a good time to remind everybody, if you're not following Zak on Twitter, you should. He's at Zak Baris. That's Z-B-A-R-I-S. Bosh had 12 points tonight. That's not a monster game. That's not an all-star game. That's really subpar. That's not going to get it done.
Yeah, it's incredibly. But that's what you have when you have Tim Duncan on him, or Tago Splitter. He's not going to be able. He wasn't able to do much offensively. San Antonio was really effective on the defensive end of the ball, and especially on the offensive end, they broke the record for most three-pointers in a game tonight. In an NBA Finals game. I know they had 15 when the stat came out. I don't know if they had another one. I'm not sure if they did. But they looked phenomenal, and you can't take that away from them. They now have momentum. All they have to do, as long as they take one more game in San Antonio, and especially if they take Game 4, I think Miami is going to be down and out if San Antonio is able to swipe Game 4 from them.
Swipe or defend. 3 for 23 in the last.
Well, I'm saying though that Miami might have all taken out of them if they get down 3-1 in this series. It's just going to be very tough to rebound from that. And so Miami, you're now putting on Game 4 as a must-win in Miami. For Miami.
Well, hey, before we get to like a little preview of Game 4, and we got you just for a quick hit today, but I just wanted to ask you something too, because something came out yesterday. Talking about Danny Green got me thinking about it. Tim Tebow, I know you're a basketball guy, but you're talking about a system guy. Bill Belichick tends to bring in people with zero risk, nothing but reward. Any thoughts on the Tebow thing? Just completely out of left field as a random question for you.
Yeah, it's going to offer nothing. Yeah, you might see him with a couple of red zone touchdowns this year when it's 3rd and goal at the 1-yard line. That's when you're going to see him in that kind of stuff. He's a third-string quarterback for a reason, and there's a reason why it took him all offseason to find one team who would even take a flyer. That doesn't even mean he's going to make the regular season roster.
That's true.
He hasn't guaranteed a roster spot.
But it's an interesting storyline. And you know what? I'm pulling for the kid. I'm pulling for him.
I don't hate Tim Tebow. That's where people get me wrong. I do not hate Tim Tebow. I hate the media circus that surrounds Tim Tebow.
I can agree with that.
If that makes any sort of sense to you.
It makes total sense. I mean, it's a circus sideshow.
The amount of coverage he gets for a third-string quarterback is just ridiculous.
Well, he wasn't a third-string quarterback when he was winning playoff games against the Steelers. He took a pretty crappy team, and he didn't play all that great, but he did quarterback a team to the playoffs.
That was not a crappy team. That was a good team that didn't have a quarterback. Look what they did this year. They won 13 games with Peyton Manning. That was a good football team. They had all I have to say is before we jump back to basketball, this defense was the best defenses in the league. They saved him. The defense saved him in Denver.
I'll give you that.
There were games 7-3. Granted, Tebow's last-second heroics were something out of this world, but he did not do anything the first 3.5 quarters of any game. Their offense was stale. It did nothing. There's a lot of 3-and-outs. Their defense was phenomenal. You had guys like Von Miller to thank for that.
Well, hey, you know what? Tim Tebow and Dan Marino have the same number of rings. I'm just tossing it out there. I don't know. No, it's a very interesting story. We can get into that a little bit later. I'm really excited for this football season, even though the Cleveland Browns are imploding with the owner Jimmy Haslam under FBI investigation and Trent Richardson having an injury and a lawsuit against him. It's just, and Josh Gordon already suspended for 2 games because of codeine cough syrup. It's just, will the hits ever stop coming for Cleveland sports? But I am looking forward to the NFL. But back to basketball for just a second, and we'll let you get running here. Game 4. Like I said, with the format, the Spurs could sweep. Do you think they will? Probably not. I mean, the NBA has had rigged games before. There's always murmurs about David Stern.
David Stern would go. Basically, let's just put it in a nice way. It's crazy if this thing ends in 5 games. The Heat were getting the majority of the calls tonight, though. There's nothing the refs could do, though.
They were trying real hard.
It can only be so much. It mattered. It mattered in Game 1 when the Heat were getting a lot of calls too, but the Spurs were able to overcome that and win. But I do recall though that Miami was up against Dallas 2 years ago, 2-1. I think they were up. In Dallas, and then Dallas took the next 2 in Dallas, and we're up 3-2 heading back to Miami and won Game 6. So Miami lost 3 in a row there to end the series, I believe. But this isn't the Miami team from last year. This is not the same team it was a year ago.
No, Dwayne Wade does not have that. Yeah, what is the biggest difference? Would you say? Would you say it's Dwayne Wade? That's where I just instantly jumped to, but it's probably something else. Do you think that hunger for that first title
Dwayne Wade
that LeBron had?
Look like, I was talking to someone the other day from Miami. He said, Wade's still a superstar. And I said, he's not a superstar anymore. I said, at times he flashes his superstar ability, but it doesn't make him a superstar, And they're going, and then I was talking to someone, and he goes, you think LeBron stays in Miami? I go, with what talent around him after next year? And he goes, got Dwayne Wade. Wade's going to be healthy next year. And I go, yeah, for the first 30, 40 games of the year until he goes down with this first, second, third, and fourth knee injury of the year. And by the time the playoffs come around, he's beat up.
Was he? Would you say that Wade was easily that it was obvious that he's playing in pain, like he's just not himself out there, or do you think there's something else going on?
I mean, he's just getting older. I mean, like you said, his body's taking a beating. He hasn't been able to change his approach like Kobe Bryant did. Kobe Bryant used to play a very physical game. You don't see Kobe Bryant laying it in and dunking it anymore 10 times a game. Kobe Bryant's become. Kobe Bryant refined his jump shot, became a great jump shooter. He's always been a good jump shooter. But, he's able to play a more finesse game, and that's what allowed him to play until 34 and be a top-tier player. Dwayne Wade his career, Dwayne Wade has to lean in. He always leans in because he takes a lot of contact. That's Dwayne Wade's game.
So is that the number one difference, then? Do you think the Dwayne Wade thing is the difference between the two teams?
I think it is. LeBron just played terrible tonight. I just want to start with that. LeBron's play was the difference tonight. But the surrounding cast, other than Mike Miller, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh were all very, very bad tonight.
Yeah, LeBron 7 for 21.
Miller, that team would have lost by 50.
Oh yeah, Miller was 5 for 5, 15 points. Yeah, you can't really ask much more from the guy on the
Miami
off the bench.
needs to come out there. LeBron can't be so passive at the beginning of a game either. He's got to get out there, start taking shots. He didn't even take his first shot tonight in the game until with 3 minutes left in the first quarter. That's unacceptable, especially when your teammates aren't doing anything. You can't rely on them. Just go in there. Do what you did at the end of the third quarter, or the end of the do it. I don't know if it was the end of the third or the end of the. I think it was the end of the second, where you go in there and you have to put up a lot of points at one point. You have to do that. You just need, if you need to go on a scoring takeover. We saw Michael Jordan do it multiple times. We've seen Kobe Bryant do it when necessary. We've seen Paul Pierce do it. Everybody. And we watched LeBron do it last year against Oklahoma City. He was phenomenal. Not only was he phenomenal last year, but his supporting cast was phenomenal, too. Mike Miller was great in the playoffs this year. Battier was fantastic. You don't have the same this year with them, and it's a completely different scenario.
Yeah. You wonder if LeBron lost a little bit of that fire after his first title. I
don't think it's LeBron. Because he looked pretty good in Game 1. He looked great in Game 2.
But how do you explain Game 3 though? That yes, he looked good for 2 games.
It was a terrible game, and let's see how he comes back. We have to see how he responds to adversity. Basically, and I hate the word adversity because it gets way too much. It's always way too overused in sports.
What's a better word then? Let's coin something better. What can we come up with instead of adversity?
Let me think first.
I'm putting you on the spot now.
No, I don't even know, but. I just hate using that word just because it gets overused way too much. Hey, it's always a player. Oh, we overcame adversity. Every team overcomes adversity to win.
Hey, single mothers overcome adversity. People that are, adversity is like real life situation stuff. Sports is sports. You're trained to play the game. You love the game. You compete. Is it really adversity when you always know that someone is trying to defeat you? I don't know. But no, I'm with you on that. So why don't we think of a better phrase than adversity? But
basically, he just has to overcome a terrible, terrible game, and we need to see how he responds. If he doesn't respond in Game 4, Miami's dead in the water.
This was a blowout.
It's not just even LeBron. If LeBron plays this identical game, the supporting cast plays well, they still get blown out. They need a big game from LeBron. They need a big game from Wade and Bosh, and one of the members of the supporting cast in order, whether it's Birdman or whether it's Norris Cole or Chalmers. Your starting point guard can't leave the game with 0 points. Chalmers has been averaging 13.5 points this series in the first 2 games. Take that out of the lineup, and it's just demoralizing.
Well, your starting point, yeah.
You can't just, LeBron is strongly to blame for tonight's loss, but you can't just blame him. Every other player but Mike Miller deserves a share of the blame, whether it's Mario Chalmers, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. They lost. When you win as a team, you win. And when you lose as a team, you lose as a team. And no matter how you look at it, whether they lost by 1 point or 36 tonight, they lost. And it's a bad loss. It's going to be tough to overcome, especially if San Antonio can stay on this roll. Not only was San Antonio was draining a lot of open threes. Miami failed to guard the perimeter tonight. San Antonio's ball movement was incredible. Some of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, like Globetrotter style. Globetrotter style. Like, hey, we've actually been practicing this stuff. LeBron is one of the best passers I've ever seen. I'll say that right off the bat. But the dynamics of, even LeBron in Cleveland, give it to LeBron and see what he does. There's still some of that in the Heat, just because that's the dynamic of when you have the superstar on your team. The Spurs, obviously, they have to work off of an advantage and try to even the playing field a little bit. And it kind of looked like a clinic out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was. And, it honestly looked like LeBron playing a bunch of – I mean, it looked like a great high school team, or a great college team, like Duke, going up against, a Cleveland State-type team. That's what it looked like. It looked like two teams that were on completely different levels. And, tonight the Miami Heat did not look like a championship team. That was the first time I was tuning into basketball all year, and I said, this is the team that's in the championship. I'd been shocked. So it was just failure to execute by Miami on both ends of the floor. Like I said, they failed to guard the perimeter. San Antonio has great three-point shooters, and Matt Bonner wasn't even involved tonight. He's a fantastic three-point shooter too. So when you get those guys, when they're not involved in the offense or the defensive side, you're going to lose, and San Antonio just took control. You cannot leave guys like Kawhi Leonard open, Gary Neal, or Danny Green, the sharpshooters, and especially guys like Ginobili, who basically would get the ball at the top of the key and is able to just drive it. Yeah, he still has the prettiest Euro step layup I've ever seen. So he can just get to the rim, and I still remember. I mean, it's not as good as it was 6 years ago.
Right.
I will never forget that he had no problem getting to the rim in 2007. And I remember he was just the X factor in that series that just killed the Cavaliers. And, this San Antonio team looks young again. They look like they could be a competitor for years.
Yeah, it kind of looked like, the past couple games and tonight, you've seen Tony Parker take a really hard screen and kind of look a little shaken up at times. You've seen Tim Duncan seem shaken up for a little bit, and you watch that and just, at least for me, I am pulling for the Spurs. I don't know if that's obvious, but it is obvious. I do root against the former king. I do root for the Spurs. They're not necessarily the underdog. I guess they are. I guess they're the underdog. But what I was getting at there is that I've seen them start to take some hits. I'm wondering if you think that they are vulnerable to that. But you were going to say something else right there.
I was going to say, Miami, Miami is the defending champion. LeBron is the king. But, the thing is, if Miami does lose this year, there's still the criticism, they won their title in a shortened season. San Antonio still gets it when they won I believe it was the 99 finals, and the 98-99 season, that 50-game season, the lockout season. You never hear anybody talk about that as one of their big finals wins. Because it was a 50-game season that year, 52-game season, whatever it was. And like last year was 66. It's a shortened season. It doesn't, people always say it's a tainted season. So, until LeBron wins the ring, you're always going to hear these people saying until he wins a ring in the 82-game season, he's going to hear from the naysayers.
He can't.
It is true though. He did not win in an 82-game season.
It is true, and I don't want to be on the other side here trying to defend LeBron, but I know I've been seeing a lot of stuff about that. I don't know where I stand on that. I haven't necessarily made up my mind, but I don't know. He got a title. So what? It was a shortened season. Every game was magnified even more. That's how crucial it was to not screw up in the regular season. I don't know. I hope he never gets another ring outside of a Cavaliers uniform. Let me just be honest with everybody out there. I'm a Cleveland fan who had my heart ripped out when he bailed on us. So what? It is what it is, but I'm not going to root for him in his future endeavors. I'm not necessarily rooting for an injury. That would be wrong. I don't want to see him succeed outside of Cavaliers laundry. I felt like he owed a championship to Cleveland. He didn't owe anything to Cleveland.
Like I said the other day, when this would make a fascinating storyline if Miami were to lose this, if they were to lose this championship. Because you will see this will be the end of the big three if they do lose this.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you on that, and that would not put me in a bad mood at all. It would be interesting, though, if you gave Pat Riley an offseason to see if he could find a way to ship some components out and try to reload before you lose the king. I don't know.
That's just – you have to make an attempt to keep him, and I can tell you right now, Miami will not be better a year from now with the same current roster they have in place with another guy at the mid-level exception, signing a guy in the mid-level. I've been hearing talk about I can't even think of what older point guard is. Oh, Chauncey Billups will possibly join the Miami Heat next year.
Chauncey.
Just add another guy to the arsenal that didn't play this year. And I can't say a bad word about Chauncey. He's a phenomenal player on and off the court. So, but he's just, Chauncey Billups is going to be 37 next year. So just take that for what it is too, But if the Heat go to add him at the veteran minimum or, the mid-level exception, they don't have a lot of room to work with. They really don't. And, I don't think Chauncey Billups is the missing piece to a championship team. So you have to go look out there, does Miami go, if they lose the series, do they go and they look and they go, okay, we got to trade Chris Bosh now. What do we
to get some value, to get some value in return?
Do we trade him to a team that's looking for an instant upgrade that needs to put fans in the stands? Maybe Charlotte, maybe the Bobcats will be interested, and they go, okay, we'll give up the number 4 pick in the draft. Miami can reload with a young piece, try to get, more and more under the cap, avoid more luxury tax. Do we even look to trade our franchise player in Dwayne Wade? That becomes a possibility too. I don't know if anybody would want to take on this contract, but, this is all stuff that comes into play for this offseason that's going to make a great, it's going to be great news.
You talk about the 36-point blowout here. Just a couple quick more. And how much of this do you think was Eric Spoelstra? Because Van Gundy was ready to put Spoelstra in the Hall of Fame tonight. Listening to his commentary, I'm like, come on, man. You got to give him a little bit of time here. Did you see some of this as a failure in the coach getting his team ready? Or at this point, do coaches...
Honestly, when you have guys like LeBron, there's only so much a coach can do, to get his guys ready. LeBron, if you can't, if your guys aren't motivated for a championship game enough, then it's beyond the coach, But Miami's failed adjustments are what almost cost them the Indiana series too. Spoelstra refused to adjust defensively in that series for the most part until Game 7, and it cost them big time. They were on the verge of losing that series, to an inferior team, to a good Indiana team, but to a great one. No, that doesn't match up about any of the 90s teams the Bulls beat, It doesn't, those aren't the 1995 New York Knicks or the Pacers from the 90s, those aren't any of those teams. And that's what's totally different. And, the Pacers are a good team. They're not a great team. Miami was supposedly a great team. It took them 7 games to beat the Pacers.
Well, let's talk about Game 4 then. Let's move along to Game 4. Do you think Spoelstra is going to make some of those adjustments? Do you think that do you think we're going to see a close game or another one of these blowouts? We've been back and forth, 2 different blowouts. What are you looking forward to as keys?
I expect Spoelstra to at least change up. I expect Mike Miller to be playing big minutes from the start. I expect, if Mario Chalmers isn't performing, look for, the problem is, though, they basically moved LeBron to point for the most part for the entire second half, and it didn't work. It was completely ineffective. Because his teammates weren't making shots, and he wasn't making shots, controlling the ball. So, does Norris Cole move into that more, that point guard role, and LeBron move back to the 3 for the most part and play a little bit of point forward? Those are the adjustments you have to look at, especially on the offensive end. They could not get Chris Bosh involved offensively. He couldn't get the ball. I don't even know if he had a dunk tonight. Maybe he had one. It was tough to watch this Miami team. I'm going to go back and rewatch most of the game later again, just so I can look at different points. But, it was just, they were wildly ineffective. Udonis Haslem, he wasn't able to set up for any, of his 8 to 10 foot jump shots that he constantly makes. He wasn't open at any of them, And, in the second half, Miami just couldn't do anything. I'm watching the highlights again from the first half. They were able to move the ball in the first quarter, here and there. But, I'm looking at a play right now in the second quarter. There's a defensive adjustment with Mike Miller on Tim Duncan. Talk about a mismatch right there.
Yeah, Timmy is just playing beyond his years. It's really something to watch. They've been so under the radar, the Spurs have, so underrated. If they're able to knock out the Heat, that's just going to be the cherry on top.
Like I said, if San Antonio wins Game 4, they're going to close this out in San Antonio.
I would like to see that. I don't like close games. I like to have them decided pretty quick, and I like the team that I'm rooting for to win. I'd be all fine with a 6-game series and San Antonio getting yet another championship. I'm totally fine with that. So,
I think this thing, like I said, if Miami can't respond to this loss in Game 4, They'll be down 3-1 at that point. I cannot see them winning the series. I mean, I think San Antonio would even possibly be able to close it out at home.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll have a chance to see it coming up in the next few days, and maybe we can even chat after those games. I know this is like a little guerrilla, spontaneous show, but that's the freedom of what we're allowed to do here at the New American Media because, it's relevant, and we felt like having this chat. So we'll send everybody your way on Twitter. You're at Z Baris, Z-B-A-R-I-S.
Oh, I just want to say, Bosch and Wade, I was just looking at a combined 22 points in the first half. They finished the game. Bosch had 12. Wade had 16. They had a combined 4 points in the second half between Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh.
4 points combined in the second half.
Yes.
That's almost as good of a stat as the Heat being 3 for 23 in San Antonio. We'll see how it plays out in Game 4. Zach, thank you so much again for your time, and we'll bring you back again real soon. Okay, pal?
Thank you for having me on.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. That is Zak Baris. Really good stuff. Please do us a favor. Sign up for all of the New American Media stuff. YouTube.com/The New American Media, on Twitter at American_Media_. Search The New American Media on Facebook, and we'll see you soon. My name's Brian Engelman. This has been The Unhappy Hour. Go Spurs. Agree to disagree. Yeah, it's a radio show we have on thenewamericanmedia.com every single Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Join the show. What do we talk about? Politics, religion, and spirituality. Basically anything you're not supposed to talk about in a bar. You're not supposed to have these conversations inside of a bar, but we have them every single Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific on thenewamericanmedia.com. Join the show, offer your opinion, and let's agree to disagree, but let's have a good conversation.